My neighbor Linda built herself a $10 million mansion, but she made one catastrophic mistake. She stole a strip of my land to construct the only entrance road to her estate. When I confronted her, she laughed in my face and told me her mansion mattered more than my property rights. She believed her wealth made her untouchable. What she didn't realize was that I was holding the official land survey, proving her entire estate was completely landlocked without that strip of asphalt. So I waited. I chose the perfect moment to act. The day of her daughter's extravagant $1 million wedding. As caterers and luxury guests began arriving, I rolled in heavy machinery to reclaim what was legally mine. Stay with me, because you won't believe her expression when she realized her luxury palace had just become a $10 million prison. Linda wasn't the type of neighbor who simply entered a room. She dominated it. From the moment construction began on her mansion, she treated the entire neighborhood like it was her personal development project. But she had one major issue. Her lot was breathtaking, surrounded by natural beauty, yet it lacked a practical grand entrance. Instead of redesigning the layout, she did things a Linda way. She paved her main access road straight to the corner of my property. I wasn't even home when the asphalt was poured. When I returned and saw elegant stone pillars and a freshly paved driveway cutting through my land, I went straight to her door. I showed her my deed and the certified survey. "Linda," I said calmly, "your main entrance sits 30 feet inside my property line. We need to discuss a lease, or you need to remove the road." She didn't even glance at the map. She laughed, adjusted her designer sunglasses, and said, "Alex, that tiny patch of dirt was useless to you. My mansion raises the value of this entire street. You should thank me for improving your view. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a gala to plan." Her dismissal was icy. Her arrogance was unbelievable. But when she walked away, I noticed a master plan she had left open on her outdoor table. That night, I went home and cross-checked my land survey with city terrain records. That's when I found a golden truth. Because of steep cliffs bordering one side of her property and protected wetlands on the other, that small strip of land she stole was the only legal access point to her entire estate. By paving over it without an easement, she hadn't just trespassed, she had made her entire mansion dependent on my permission. I could have reported her immediately. Instead, I chose patience. I waited for the day it would hurt her the most, her daughter's $1 million wedding. The trap was set, and Linda had no idea she had built herself into a $10 million cage. For 3 months, I became invisible in my own neighborhood. I watched florist trucks, luxury caterers, and tent companies flood her estate. Every one of them using the road that legally belonged to me. Each time a heavy truck rolled across that asphalt, I didn't get angry. I glanced at my watch and smiled. She was pouring a fortune into the wedding, the social event of the year. She even sent me a cheerful note asking me to keep my lawn neat because important people would be driving by. She had no idea those important people were about to face a dead end. During those months, I worked quietly with my lawyer and a private surveyor. We didn't just confirm the boundaries. We secured a permanent injunction and a court-ordered restoration mandate from the county. The judge was stunned when he saw photos of the stone pillars Linda had installed on my land without permits. Everything was ready. Legal documents, police standby authorization, a contract with a heavy equipment company. I told the operator, "Bring me the largest concrete barriers and the strongest steel gate you have. Deliver them Saturday morning at exactly 8 a.m. The night before the wedding, her mansion shimmered with fairy lights. Music drifted through the air as guests laughed during the rehearsal dinner. Linda stood in the center of it all, playing queen of the estate. She saw me by my mailbox and waved with a triumphant grin, as if to say she had won. I nodded and whispered to myself, "Enjoy tonight, Linda. Tomorrow your kingdom closes." I went to bed early, calm and certain. The legal trap was set. All that remained was sunrise. Saturday arrived crisp and bright, buzzing with wedding energy. By 7 in the morning, luxury vans and catering trucks were lined up to enter her estate. Linda stood on her balcony in a silk robe, shouting orders through a megaphone like a general commanding troops. Completely unaware her supply line was seconds from being cut. At precisely 8 a.m., The roar of heavy machinery drowned out the string quartet rehearsing inside. 2 flatbed trucks carrying 4-ton industrial concrete barriers and a reinforced steel gate stopped at my property line, the exact point where her illegal road began. My crew worked with precision. Within 20 minutes, the barriers slammed into place with earth-shaking force, sealing the asphalt completely. Private property and no trespassing signs were bolted into the ground. The transformation was immediate. Luxury cars filled with guests in tuxedos and gowns began stacking up in confusion. Linda came running down the driveway, rage written across her face. "What is this?" she screamed. "The wedding starts in 2 hours. Move this immediately, or I'll have you arrested." I calmly handed her a blue folder containing the permanent injunction. "Actually, Linda," I said evenly, "the only person risking arrest is anyone who crosses this line. This isn't junk. This is my land being reclaimed. Since you said this dirt did nothing for me, I decided to use it for storage." She looked at the paperwork, then at the trapped guests, then at the cliffs and wetlands surrounding her property. Reality hit her. Her $10 million masterpiece was now a gilded cage, with no other way in or out. "You can't do this," she whispered. "It's my daughter's wedding. You should have thought about that before building your throne on someone else's kingdom." I replied. Chaos erupted. The bride was crying. Guests were sweating in formal wear. Linda was frantically calling her lawyers. But as her legal team confirmed, there was no emergency loophole for trespassing. The court order was airtight. To save the wedding, Linda had to do something she despised, beg, in front of her prestigious guests and the neighborhood she once ruled. She pleaded for 6 hours of access. I agreed with one condition. My lawyer drafted a temporary access agreement. To open that gate, she had to wire $50,000 immediately and sign a notarized confession acknowledging the road was illegally built on my land, with no alternative and her daughter sobbing nearby. She signed. The wedding proceeded, but every guest drove past towering concrete barriers and clear signs stating the road belonged to me. The queen had been publicly dethroned. The final blow came a week later. Using her signed confession, the county revoked her certificate of occupancy. A house without permanent legal access cannot legally be inhabited. She tried to sell the mansion, but no one wanted a $10 million property without a lawful driveway. I then purchased a narrow strip of land behind her estate, the only other potential exit, effectively boxing her in completely. In the end, Linda lost everything. She sold the mansion at a massive loss to a developer I recommended and quietly moved out of state in disgrace. As for me, I kept the $50,000 and transformed that strip of land into a peaceful private garden where her illegal road once ran. Every morning I sit there with my coffee, looking at the empty space where arrogance once tried to build a kingdom. I learned something valuable through it all. Money can buy a mansion, but it cannot buy the right to cross someone else's boundaries. And Linda? She learned that the tiny patch of dirt she dismissed was the only thing holding her entire world together. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to DH Story Channel, like the video, comment below, and share with others. Thanks for watching.